I thought I knew everything about the AK-47, but when I did some research, I found that there are some fascinating and controversial aspects to the world's most prolific gun that I had no idea about. No one, for instance, knows about the assistant, Alexander Sysev, who saved the whole project from failing at the last moment. Also, everyone thinks that the issue of 5.56 versus 7.62 is still up for debate, but you probably didn't know what kind of round the Russian infantry currently uses. Stick around and we'll dive into that issue in this video. The new AKs shoot the 5.45 by 39mm, which is slightly smaller than the 5.56. And a lot of the military experts out there actually make the case that it's better than the 5.56. But as technology continues to develop, you guessed it, the Russian army is actually looking to change rifles to an intermediate cartridge now, just like the US Army is trying to switch to the 6.8mm. Because body armor has changed and the distance of engagement will likely change because fire control systems make it so anyone can be a sniper. Do you see how crazy that is? Okay, so Goat Gun sponsored this video and they're definitely one of my favorite sponsors that we have. I love their products. Whenever I have someone come by and visit my place, the first thing they ask me about is where I got that awesome tiny replica gun and does it actually shoot? And I tell them the same thing. Stop being so nosy, stop asking so many questions about my stuff, and I got it from Goat Guns. I have a bunch of these now and I keep one in pretty much every room of my house. They sell all kinds of miniature, small-scale replica firearms. As with all of their products, with the gold-plated AK-47, you can actually take the magazine out, pull the bolt back, and it's sturdy, durable. The great thing about these Goat Guns is they're actually really, really affordable. These make for amazing gifts for your family, your friends. You guys need to go to the link in the description below and grab one of these Goat Guns. They're a great company, so check them out. All of their products are really cool. It made sense at one point in history for the AK-47 to shoot the 7.62, but because of developments in optics and armor, it starts to make sense to use a smaller round, like the 5.45. Then it starts to go full circle when the optics develop even more to the point where hitting a button gives anyone, even someone with a gross sharpshooter badge like me, the ability to hit a target at 600 meters with relatively little training. I don't know if I'm explaining how crazy that is, and it's exactly why so many people get caught up in arguing which round is better for the standard infantry, because technology has been changing so quickly in the past 40 years, it's hard to keep up with. This is why the AK will likely shoot an intermediate round for Russian infantry in the next 5 years. If you find the video interesting, please remember to hit the like button and subscribe. It helps to promote our content. So the US military is often inspired by what they see their Russian counterparts develop. They're like each other's military muse, their source of inspiration. In this case, the Russians saw the AR-15 and were inspired to create a new line of the AK family of weapons. The newest iteration is the AK-12. This is the modern assault rifle used by Russian forces. It's part of their Ratnik program. Ratnik is their version of our future combat program here. It's all part of their effort to upgrade their military. Many rifles were submitted to the Ratnik program to compete to replace the AK-74M, which was the rifle that replaced the AK-47. Ratnik isn't just about weapons though. It adds modern capabilities to all levels of the military. Squad leaders, for instance, will get something similar to basically an iPad, and they'll be able to see on a GPS map where each of their soldiers are located. They will also get updated body armor which protects 90% of their body, similar to the IOTV that we have. The reason you have an advantage with a small round is because of sustained accurate fire, which is easier to achieve when the recoil is smaller, and if you have the technology to get the bullet to fly at a higher velocity, it can grab all those important criteria along the way, like being able to defeat body armor and engage out to 600 meters in range. The 5.45 that the new AKs use also produce a wounding effect that only happens when the round tumbles. This increases the likelihood of taking an enemy out of the fight. The effect on a soft target for the 5.45 round is twice as bad than when you use the larger 7.62. The AK-12 was first tested by Russia back in 2011. It takes the maximum effective range of the AK series out to 600 meters now because of its increased muzzle velocity of 900 meters per second. It weighs 7.7 pounds and has a rate of fire of 700 rounds per minute. One of the major upgrades is a Picatinny rail system on the sides and top of the rifle, which will allow soldiers to add the impressive futuristic fire control systems that allow even a novice shooter to hit targets at 600 meters with the push of a button. This will be commonplace in the next 5 years. This is one of the last versions of the AK family that Kalashnikov himself was involved in, as he passed away 2 years later in 2013. No one out there really knows the true story of how it actually got made. It started with a young Russian man named Makhail Kalashnakov who wanted to make something of himself and earn some money. You might think he needed money to buy modifications for his AK, but you'd be wrong, he needed to invent it first. No joke, he needed the money to support his love for poetry. Makhail has amazing luck, so he's almost instantly conscripted into the Russian army for World War II. And he fights in the Battle of Breznik, one of the first battles on the Eastern Front. The Russians lose the fight pretty badly, and Makhail is injured. After the war, there's a major arms race between the two remaining world superpowers, and Makhail's right at the center of it. And Makhail Kalashnikov made the weapon in response to the German-engineered firearm called the Sturmgewehr 44 rifle. I definitely pronounced that correctly. This weapon combined the best attributes of the volume of fire from a submachine gun and the range and accuracy of a carbine. The Russians allowed all the different competing bids to borrow ideas from other teams, and it was a collaborative effort of many different teams that came up with the final design, but they needed a face and a story to attach to the AK-47, so they went with Makhail, and he said he dreamed it up while he was laying in a medical aid station where he was recovering from wounds sustained from fighting the Germans. This part is probably true. He was definitely injured in the war. Quote from Makhail: "I was in the hospital and a soldier in bed beside me asked, 'Why do our soldiers have only one rifle for 2 or 3 of our men when the Germans have automatics?' So I designed one. I was a soldier and I created a machine gun for a soldier. It was called an Avmatov Kalashnikov. It's a touching tale, a mix of half-truths and half-propaganda." Makhail Kalashnikov was, no doubt, a really smart inventor, but how much of the AK-47 design is thanks to him we might never know. His assistant, Alexander Zaitsev, advised Kalashnikov to improve the reliability of the AK and to combine separate pieces into single pieces right before the final tests with the government. This both made it easier to produce and more reliable in the finished version presented to the Russian government. These were the features that actually won him the bid. It had a long stroke gas piston located above the barrel. The gas piston system avoids the problems of creating soot and caked up carbon and gas cooling bits in the gas tube, which jam up a gun like the AR series. This means that the AK-47 keeps working without a ton of cleaning. For this reason, the AK keeps firing in the most harsh temperature and conditions. The upper and lower receivers were combined into one single receiver, and the selector and safety were simplified and made into a single control lever. The bolt handle was attached to the bolt carrier. Let's look at the AK series by the numbers. The muzzle velocity is 715 meters per second. By the book, the effective range is 400 meters, which the lessons from World War II taught us a regular infantryman needed to be able to engage out to 400 meters occasionally, while they needed to be able to engage accurately at 200 meters frequently. The original AK-47 was like the original M16, where there was really no way you could mount an optic on it easily. And this goes to show how insanely different future weapons developments have become. The original version of the AK-47 didn't even imagine the need for a mounted fire control system because at the time it would have been so insanely expensive to put an optic on your AK-47 as a regular infantry grunt. What, put a telescope on your rifle? Okay, Vasily Vysev. The AK-47 has been one of the major pieces of firearms that defines the post-war world, as much of a part of world history as being a part of firearms history. Now, if the gyms would just finally open up so I could get strong enough to handle the recoil of a 7.62. Please like the video, it helps promote our channel. I'm Cappy, Task and Purpose out.